Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage Eitel.
All right, my name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And guys, you're in the right place if you've got questions about real estate, interest rates, mortgages. What is going on? Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? Should you just dig a big hole in your backyard, stick your head in it, and wait for all this to blow over? Guys, you're in the right place if you want the data, the information, the tips, the tricks, the strategies that you need so you can go out there and make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family. Again, my name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned into the Mr. Mortgage Show. Jennifer and I do this every week right here, same time, same station, and we are super excited to be with you. Hey, before we get started, I know it's been a crazy week. It started with the elections, and then bam, here comes Hurricane Nicole. So, hey, big shout out to Greg and Carol for riding it out, keeping the station on the air and keeping us updated. Because, guys, I'm a listener too. I only get to do this once a week, so the rest of the time I'm a listener. And we appreciate PSL and STU for keeping us informed and broadcasting all of the necessary info. So big shout out to the station. Thank you for doing that for us. I hope everybody fared well. We're broadcasting from the Mr. Mortgage Studio down in Martin County today, and we're piping it into the PSL studio, and Greg's keeping us on the air. So we fared okay. We had a couple down trees and, some wind and rain, but super blessed to be with you. I hope you guys did well too. If you need anything, just know that if there are any emergency announcements that are necessary to get out during the show, Greg is going to kick us right off the air and broadcast the information that you need, and we will move out of the way for that. But hey, we are going to get started. We got a great show lined up for you this week. I am so glad the elections are over. I don't know about you, but my God, I've never seen so many grown adults throwing mud at each other. And whoever knew there was such a skill in dodging questions? I watched some of the debates, and it's amazing at how what seems like a very clear question can be answered with a bunch of sidestepping and dodging, and 4 or 5 minutes into the answer, you forget what the question even was. But wow, I'm glad it's over. It's kind of scary that some of these folks are our leaders, but I'm praying for them and hoping for the best. And I'm just so glad that we're putting the blinders on and remaining focused, because that's all we can do is control our four walls and do the best that we can with the information that we have. And we're going to try to give you some great real estate and mortgage info. Guys, your questions are always my favorite part of the show. You can call or text your questions to 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline. And as I mentioned, Jen is manning that Anytime Hotline, and she will get your questions on the air. But hey, let's dive right in. No secret, interest rates keep on marching up. And it seems like people are starting to come to terms with the interest rates in this lofty environment, if you will. But the reality is, it's not a aggressively high interest rate. I was trying to think of something more eloquent than that, but these are historically decent interest rates. I do think they'll come back down at some point, but I don't think we're ever going to see the 2s and 3s again, not in our lifetime. And guys, think of what it took for the rates to get down there. There's just so much economic. The fundamentals of the economics in the environment that we're in right now are just not going to allow that to happen. And inflation is still not under control. So the Federal Reserve is going to do anything they can to get that under control. And sadly for us, it's interest rate hikes that they're left with, and it looks like they're going to keep on keeping on. But the reality is, a mortgage interest rate in the 6s or 7s is a very fair interest rate. And I know I get a lot of grief for being, an advocate of real estate, and I don't participate in the boo-hoo-hoo. The reality is rather that 2 years ago would have been a better time to do anything, right, in real estate, assuming that your job wasn't adversely affected by COVID. but 2 years ago you were going to get a better price and a better interest rate. But think about all the people who waited 2 years ago. They're waiting themselves right out of opportunity, and that's what I hate seeing happen. And the reason why I'm such a big advocate for real estate is my own personal journey. I mean, I was blessed at a very early age. I think I was 22, 21. Let me do some quick math in my head. 21. And I had a mentor, an older gentleman that lived next door to my parents, who encouraged me to buy my first property. He showed me how to do it. He helped me make it happen. I paid $64,000. That shows you how old I am for this property. And I paid 10% interest on my mortgage. Now, I bought the interest rate down. The interest of the day was closer to 12, but I got a 10% interest rate. And here's where I'm going with this. My appreciation, the rate of appreciation during the time that I owned that property, because I did the research, went back historically and saw that the appreciation was about 3%. Very anemic appreciation. So double-digit interest, super low appreciation. Just the opposite of the cycle that we came out of, right? We had high appreciation and low single-digit interest rates. But my point is, I owned that property for, I think, about 10 years. I don't remember exactly how long, but I do remember my mortgage payment was $561.65 a month. I will never forget that number. $561.65 was my mortgage payment. Super excited to write that check each month. My brother came home from the Air Force the same year that I bought my house, and he rented an apartment. And man, he rented a cool apartment overlooking the pool, and beyond the pool was the golf course. And I used to go over to his place. I loved being over there on the weekends. Man, it looked like Melrose Place. All these beautiful people hanging out by the pool, barbecuing. There were boobs and butts, and I mean, it was a great place to be a young single person, and my brother loved it there. But here's my point. We both lived, he in his apartment and me in my first house for almost the exact same amount of time. My payment was $561 the day I moved in and $561 the day I sold it. His rent started at $550, and in that same period of time increased to $1,000 or thereabouts. I think it was just a hair over. I'll have to call him and see if he remembers the story the way I do, because I tell on him all the time about this. But I sold my property, and I had enough equity cashed out that I could buy the house that in the neighborhood that I always wanted to live in. And I had a very cool house on a pie-shaped lot on a cul-de-sac, and a pool and a garage. I even air conditioned my garage to keep my motorcycle in there. It was the full-on man cave. I had the beer fridge, and I had the TV mounted to the wall, and ESPN was on all the time. And I'd sit in there and drink a beer and wash and detail my motorcycle. But anyway, the equity in my first house allowed me to do that. My brother loved that neighborhood also, so he went and leased a property, a condo, overlooking the marina. Well, guys, here's a part of the story I forgot to tell you. I had enough equity left over after I bought the property. I also bought a boat, and I put it in the marina right behind his condo. And I'll never forget this. The day that I brought the boat in, he was home, and my slip was almost directly underneath his balcony of his condo. He could certainly see my boat from his place. And he came down and helped me tie the boat up. And it was a couple weeks later, we were golfing, and he said, "Man, how did you do that? You're not smarter than I am. You certainly aren't more handsome than I am." He's definitely the better looking of the two of us. But he couldn't believe that in that short period of time, I had saved up enough money to move to the neighborhood that we both really loved. Golf course in the neighborhood, marina in the neighborhood. There was boat storage. Just a really cool place to live. And I told him, hey, I didn't do it. I didn't cut out going to the movies. I didn't cut out taking any trips. I certainly didn't sell my motorcycle. All I did was make my mortgage payment every month, my double-digit interest rate with my single-digit appreciation over that period of time, built up enough equity that I was able to buy the house that I really wanted, and I didn't save a penny to do it. As a matter of fact, I paid less to own that house than he did to rent that killer condo overlooking the golf course and the pool. So that's why I'm excited about real estate, whether interest rates are 2% or 12%, whether appreciation's 20% or it's 2%, it still makes sense. Guys, if property never, ever appreciates again, it still makes sense because each month you're paying down a little principal. and you're gaining some equity over time. So anyway, I'm not going to go off on a tangent. I believe that if you can find the opportunity in the market, it's very likely that it still makes sense. But guys, if you have questions, we're going to get to them on the other side of this break. You hear the music, you know what that means. That's my cue. We'll be back into Sit Tight for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, we're going to dive into your questions. We're going to check in with Jen, and we're going to keep on keeping on with the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
It's that time of year again. Time for the Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. Join us Sunday, November 20th. The ride starts at Pineapple Park in Jensen and rolls out to Timer Powers Park, Indiantown. It's going to be an awesome ride, a great day, full of food, fun, music, raffles, giveaway, and so much more. $10 per bike plus an unwrapped gift. Need more info? Check out reddevilcycles.com or give Luann a call at 772-221-8616. Put a smile on a kid's face and some wind in yours.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned into the Mr. Mortgage Show. And guys, we do this each week. I am accompanied by Jennifer, my producer, and she is going to get your questions on the air. You can call or text the Anytime hotline. That number is 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. Again, call or text that number, and Jen will get your questions on the air. If you prefer to do it via email, shoot that email to us by visiting the website, mr.mortgage, never a .com. No WWs either. Just go up to your browser window, type in mr.mortgage, hit enter, boom, will pop right up. In the upper right-hand corner of the page is a Contact Us box, and you can submit your question there. But speaking of Jen, hey, Jen, how you doing?
I'm great, Mark.
I am so glad you're great. I know you did okay in the storm, and I'm super excited that you're with us. So, guys, your questions are always my favorite part of the show. We talked a little bit in that first segment about why I believe buying real estate makes sense, especially if we're talking about your primary residence. And I kind of dated myself, but I told the story about me buying my first home and why I got so excited about the opportunities that real estate affords. And I just think we're costing ourselves so much by waiting. And listen, we went through this election cycle and we heard people making promises to us that they'll probably never keep. And if we're waiting for somebody to save us, right, to solve all our problems, guys, it's just not going to happen. I mean, I remember 2 years ago when President Biden was elected, there was a lot of talk about a $15,000 first-time buyer grant. Well, where did that go? I know people waited for that. I know I had conversations with clients who were convinced that Biden was going to give them 15 grand and they waited. Well, guess what? They're still waiting. That's not happening. It hasn't happened. We've never heard about it again. And if they would have purchased 2 years ago when they were ready to, they would have bought at a lower price with a lower interest rate, and they'd have a ton of equity right now. So waiting is rarely unless you're at a stop sign, it's rarely the right thing to do. And I told the story of me owning my first home with a 10% interest rate and 3% appreciation, and how even with that flip-flopped math compared to what we just came out of, it still makes sense. So guys, if your budget number makes sense, meaning if you're paying $2,000 a month for rent right now, I'd encourage you to go out there and see what you could own for $2,000 a month. You might be surprised. And if you need help with that, I'd love to walk you through it. Check out the website, Mr. Mortgage. And there's a box on the top. I think it says free tools. If you click on that, there's an amazing mortgage calculator that has so many moving parts and variables that you can plug in all the numbers and work backwards from a payment. Put in, $2,025, whatever your monthly payment is for rent, go ahead and put in that number, and then pick the mortgage rate of the day, whatever it is, 7%, and it'll show you what you can buy. So that may be a good place to start if you've got any curiosity. But hey, I'm going to throw it over to Jen, because as I mentioned, your questions are my favorite part of the show. One more time, you can call or text 855-462-7292 to get your questions on the air. But I'm going to throw it over to her. I think we might have a question or two that already popped up. Hey, okay, what do we have?
Jeremy sent this. The company I work for just bought by a competitor. I think they're going to keep me, but I'm nervous. I'd like to refinance and pay off my credit cards and car. Can I still do it even though I've only worked for the new company for a couple of months?
Hey, that's a great question. Jen, your mic popped in and out a couple times, but I think Jeremy's company was purchased by a competitor, and you now work for the new company, and you're curious if you need to wait a certain amount of time to be with the new company. Here's the cool thing. You don't have to wait, right? Technically, you still work for you never left the profession nor your position. So with you're not going to have to wait. But a lot of people get wrapped around the axle with that. We've all heard, or most people know, there's a 2-year work history rule in mortgage underwriting. And a lot of people think that means 2 years with the same employer. And it doesn't. It doesn't mean that at all. If you manage a retail store and you transfer to, or you leave that chain, if you will. Let's say I'm embarrassed to say I don't even know many retail stores anymore. Let's say you're the manager of Ace Hardware, because I just ran down to my local Ace Hardware yesterday in prepping for the storm and bought my last bits. And guys, support your local businesses, because they were inundated and they served us all with a smile. And they got me the last nuts and washers that I needed so I could, button down the Mr. Mortgage McMansion. But anyway, so if you're the manager of Ace Hardware and you leave Ace and go to True Value or Home Depot or Lowe's, you're in the same industry in a similar capacity. You don't have to wait 2 years at the new employer. Heck, during the pandemic, we had people that never stepped foot in Florida, and they were transferring down, and we were using employment letters from the HR department of the new company, and they were buying their house on Wednesday, moving in during the rest of the week and the weekend, and showing up for work the next Monday. So, but to answer your question, you will not have to wait. You should be just fine. If you need more information, give me a call, 855-462-7292, but that should certainly be doable. Hey, Jen, do we have any other questions? Okay. Yep.
Frank sent this email. I'm commission only and get a 1099. My CPA is amazing and writes off everything he can, so my tax returns don't show much income. Can I use the bank statement option you talk about, even though I'm technically not self-employed?
Hey, that is another great question. So to answer it, yes, you can. Self-employed is anybody who's not earning a W-2 income. You're not getting a pay stub. You're not getting a W-2 with taxes taken out, at least in the world of mortgage underwriting. That's what we consider self-employed. So if you're 1099 commission employee and you're writing off things like your cell phone, you're taking clients to lunch, you're writing off your car, your mileage, then you're writing down a lot of your income. The bank statement program would work wonderfully for you. And it's interesting, right? I just wanted to share this because you said you got a killer CPA. One of the best CPAs I know, his office is 2 doors down from mine in the same building. And he's a super cool guy, Pete. And Pete and I, over the years, have become friends. And I always enjoy talking to him. And I get such a chuckle out of this because, you know, he's just a super cool guy. So his clients are cool, right? Because, you know, birds of a feather flock together, right? And I've never heard any of his clients walk in and say, hey, Pete, make me mortgage ready. Everybody walks in with that same story. I want to pay the fewest taxes possible. I want to write off everything. I don't want to write a big check to the IRS. Pete, get to work. And he rolls up his sleeves and finds all the write-offs that he can. And then you're in this situation where you're not claiming enough income to qualify for the program or for the home that you may really want. And that's where this bank statement loan program may be helpful because it's an alternative income verification program. So now with that being said, one thing I would like to encourage you to consider is letting your mortgage guy, or I'm happy to do it if you don't have a mortgage guy, get a look at your tax returns because there are a lot of write-offs that we get to add back in. So you might be surprised that even though you write off a lot of your income so that you've reduced your tax burden, which is prudent, right? I totally get it, especially now because it's most likely that we're going to have a lot more taxes in the future. I mean, they didn't hire 80,000 new IRS agents for nothing, right? So we're probably all going to be burdened with more taxes in the future. Somebody's got to pay for all of this pandemic giveaway money, and now we're forgiving student loan debt. And anyway, that's political, and I don't do politics. But my point is that you might be surprised how much of your write-offs can be added back into your income, because there are some write-offs that, like mileage, for example, depreciation, there's certain write-offs that are just paper losses, if you will, and that a lot of times can be added back into your income during the calculation. So I would encourage you first to try to be fully underwritten with your tax returns and a year-to-date P&L, because the bank statement loan program does carry a slightly higher interest rate. Now, that's predicated on credit score and the amount of money that you're borrowing in relation to the purchase price or loan to value. You hear the term LTV. But know that the bank statement loan program, those alternative income verification programs, do have a slightly higher interest rate. So it's always worth it to try first with your tax returns. And if those aren't adequate, then go the bank statement route. And we do that all the time. We'll try a strategy to get a client the very best, whatever it is, rate, program, term, whatever the scenario is. And then if for some reason that's not available, then we have these alternative strategies like the bank statement loan, like the landlord loan. If you're buying investment property, that one doesn't require any income verification. So anyway, great question. I certainly appreciate it. I hope that answer helps. And if you need more information, just give us a call, 855-462-7292. But hey, you hear the music. Dun, dun. You know what that means. Dun, dun, dun. Sorry. That is my cue. We'll be back in 2. Sit tight for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, we'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
We kept our business above water with credit cards during the pandemic. I'm glad we did. Business is better than ever. But I didn't want to be a slave to those credit card payments. I called Mark about the REC loan he advertises. Long story short, we did a REC refinance and paid off everything, even the car. Now we only have the mortgage payment. We're saving a bunch every month. Yes, we are happy to recommend Mark and the Mr. Mortgage team.
It's that time of year again. Time for the Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. Join us Sunday, November 20th. The ride starts at Pineapple Park in Jensen and rolls out to Timer Powers Park, Indiantown. It's going to be an awesome ride, a great day full of food, fun, music, raffles, giveaway, and so much more. $10 per bike plus an unwrapped gift. Need more info? Check out reddevilcycles.com or give Luann a call at 772-221-8616. Put a smile on a kid's face and some wind in yours.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you heard the man, call or text. He always forgets the text part. I'd slap him around, but guys, he's as big as that voice, so I'm going to leave him right alone. But yeah, he misses out on the text part. Call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline, and we call it the Anytime Hotline because when Jen and I are not in the studio bringing you this mortgage magic every week, that rings right to my office. So we forward that from the studio to the office so you can get your questions answered anytime during the week via the Anytime Hotline, 855-462-7292, or as the last couple people preferred, email. You can go to mr.mortgage, never a .com. Just type in mr.mortgage, hit enter, will pop right up. In the upper right hand corner of the page is the contact us box. Type your question in there, hit submit, and Jen will read it on the air for you. But hey, we've had some great questions so far. If you missed the last segment and you want to hear what you missed, you can go to mrmortgageradio.com, mrmortgageradio.com. Each week after we close down and clean up the studio and throw the pizza boxes away, Jen posts a recorded version of the show to the podcast page, which is mrmortgageradio.com. But hey, speaking of Jen and speaking of your questions, let's keep them rolling. Hey, Jen, do we have another one?
Another email, this one from Dolores. We've used more of our savings on medical bills than we expected. I'm very concerned about the future, especially with inflation. We've cut back everywhere we can, but I'm not sure it's enough. Can you explain the reverse mortgage you talk about?
Hey, Dolores, thank you so much for that question. Man, I'm sorry to hear that you are experiencing that fixed income challenge right now. And you're not alone. I mean, I'm talking to more and more people each week about the reverse mortgage. Yeah, thank God they have the equity in their property to exercise that option. And I'm happy to talk about it with you. So the reverse mortgage is a tool that allows you to pull the equity out of your property and live off the cash, or utilize that cash to supplement your income and never have to make a monthly mortgage payment. So how it works is, because there's no monthly mortgage payment, let's say you borrow $200,000. Each month, the interest that was due is added to the back of the loan. So that loan balance grows each month. I know there are a lot of people out there saying, wait, the balance grows. Yes, guys, the balance grows, but you're not making a monthly payment. And think about it this way. If you borrowed that same $200,000 in a normal mortgage, right? You were buying a property and you put money down and you borrowed $200,000. Well, you pay a lot more than $200,000 back, right? If you kept that loan for the life of that loan and you made payments each month, just like I did in that story that I shared in the first segment of the show, you're paying $300, $325, $350. I don't know. Do the math based on the interest rate. It's all predicated on rate and term, but you're paying back significantly more than what you're borrowing. It's no different with a reverse mortgage. The bank is going to get theirs, right? They always do. In this case, since there's no monthly payment due, they just add it to the back. So each month the balance grows a little bit. And then because of that, here are some big misconceptions. So Dolores, to answer your question, the reverse mortgage will allow you to pull your equity out now, and you can take it at closing, one big lump sum, and then manage yourself accordingly, right? Or you can take a lump sum at closing, and then the balance can be put into a credit line that you can draw against as you need. Now, here's the cool thing. I mentioned that the balance grows, right? Which isn't cool. I get that. The balance is growing at a predetermined interest rate, but that credit line portion, that's your money, that's earning interest at the same pace that balance is growing. So you're earning interest on the credit line portion of your funds, which is cool because that doesn't happen with an equity line. So you can take a lump sum, you can take a sum and then access the rest via a credit line, or you can take the monthly payments, which a lot of people like because that supplements their monthly cash flow. They get a check each month. You can do the same thing by setting that credit line up and drawing against it as you need it. But here are some big misconceptions about the reverse mortgage. So the first one is that the bank now owns your home. You've signed your home over to the bank. Dolores, that's not what happens. The bank puts a lien on your property just like any other mortgage. So you can sell the house, you can refinance the house, you can leave the house to your children when you pass. And it's just a mortgage lien that has to be satisfied just like any other mortgage. And since we're talking about the heirs now and you're leaving the property to your kids, using that scenario that we talked about a second ago where the balance is growing, there always is the fear that the balance could grow to a number larger than the value of the property. Now, if everything plays out as projected, that it may not happen. It's not guaranteed to happen, I guess is where I was going with that. But when we saw the market crash in the early 2000s, it did happen. There were a lot of people who owed way more than their property was worth with the reverse mortgage. Well, here's the cool thing. It's a non-recourse loan. So your kids, let's say they inherit the property as part of the estate, but you're upside down. You owe $300 on a property that's worth $200. It's a non-recourse loan. There's no problem. They slide the keys right back across the table to the bank, and it's a federally insured loan program. So the bank's insured against loss. They get their money, and they sell the property like any other bank-owned property. But your heirs, your children, are not responsible to make up any deficit that is owed, a negative equity position, if you will. And that also applies if you've got a ton of other assets. If you had millions of dollars of other assets, they don't have to liquidate those positions to satisfy the negative equity. So that's another big misconception. So you get your money several different ways, as we just described. The bank does not own your property. They just have a lien on it like any other mortgage product. And if there is a negative equity position at your upon your death, your heirs do not have to satisfy that negative equity position. And you can live in that property until you die. And that could be 30 years, 40 years. If you live, my point is the bank can never come knocking on the door and saying, hey, Dolores, your property's worth less now than when we did the loan, so you got to pay us back more money. They never knock on the door and say, hey, you've reached a tipping point in how much you owe us versus the value of the property. You have to move out. You can stay there until you die. And if you're married, your spouse can stay there until their death also. And if one of you is under 62, they still get the full benefits of staying there until their death. They're just classed as a non-borrowing qualified spouse, qualified non-borrowing spouse, meaning they're not old enough to be factored into that mortality table and the equity calculation. But they're going to use the younger of the two parties' age when they determine how much money they're going to give you, because the younger of the two of you can stay there until their death also. So a lot of really cool things about this loan program. And for the right person, it is truly, truly life-changing. Now, it's not for everybody. These loan products were abused several years ago. And because of that, some of the rules around how you can take your money and the qualification processes and the questionnaires required They want to make sure that you're not going to be putting that money at risk. In the old days, there were, investment managers that were encouraging seniors to take reverse mortgages. The mortgage guys were in on it, and they were doing reverse mortgages. The seniors invest the money, lose all the money. Now they have no money and no equity. Because of the abuses of the past, there has been some rule changes made to refine the program, but it's just a tool. A hammer can build a house, but a hammer can also tear that house down. So you got to know what to do with that tool. And this is a wonderful tool for someone who has equity but is struggling in a monthly cash flow capacity. So Dolores, thank you so much for that question. I love talking about that program. And because there's so many moving parts around it, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I know you sent that email in, so I'm going to email you back and see if we can't connect off the air, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. But you know what that music means. That's my cue. We'll be back in 2. Sit tight for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, we'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
As a realtor, I have a bunch of mortgage brokers to choose from, but I prefer to work with Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team. In this crazy market, there is no room for error, especially on the mortgage side. Mark's team moves fast, keeps everybody in the loop, and makes things happen. They always give my clients a great deal and take the time to walk them through every step of the process. When you're considering a lender, I encourage you to talk to Mark Eitel and the Mr. Mortgage team.
It's that time of year again. Time for the Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. Join us Sunday, November 20th. The ride starts at Pineapple Park in Jensen and rolls out to Timer Powers Park, Indiantown. It's going to be an awesome ride, a great day, full of food, fun, music, raffles, giveaway, and so much more. $10 per bike plus an unwrapped gift. Need more info? Check out reddevilcycles.com or give Luann a call at 772-221-8616. Put a smile on a kid's face and some wind in yours.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, you heard the man. Call or text 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline, 855-462-7292. And Jen will get your questions on the air. And guys, if you want to talk live on the air, call that number and she'll pipe you right in through the board and get you on the air. 855-462-7292. Hey, I was listening to the spots during that break, and I just heard the one for Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. That's coming up really quick, guys. November 20th, we're going to participate. We'll be out at Timer Powers Park in Indiantown. We're going to bring the old the Mr. Mortgage Mafia wagon out there, the old car, and we'll have a little tent set up, and we're just hanging out, supporting the cause. I know Jen's riding with a bunch of her friends. I was going to ride too, but I think I'm going to take the car out. Everybody loves to see the car, but hey, that's November 20th. That's a Sunday, and we meet at Pineapple Park in Jensen, but I'm going to encourage you to check out reddevilcycles.com and reddevilcycles.com. Give Luann a call at the shop and she'll give you any info that you need. And if you don't ride and you just want to hang out with us, you can, go along the ride. It's a very cool ride, by the way. It's police escorted, which is fun because we get to run the red lights. It's very cool. But anyway, the police escort us all the way out from Jensen out to Indiantown, and where I'm going with this is if you don't ride a bike, you're welcome to join. They put all the cars together and the cars will go in the line. You'll also be police escorted. Or you can just drive straight out to Timer Powers, bring an unwrapped toy or a cash donation, and they'll get toys with the cash for the kids. And if you don't want to ride and you don't want to show up out there, you can drop off donations or toys to the Stewart Police Department or to Red Devil Cycles. But just check out reddevilcycles.com, call Luann, and she'll walk you through the whole protocol on how to participate. But guys, it's a great event. They collect so many toys. There's raffles, giveaways. There's a lot of fun just to hang out. I mean, last year they gave away some 55-inch TVs, and we gave away some cool things too. I think we sponsored a couple dinners or something. But anyway, check it out. It's a lot of fun. We'll be there. And one of these days, Greg's going to let me remote from one of these things. But we're going to do the Port St. Lucie Police Athletic League ride too. We'll start talking about that probably next week. But anyway, let's keep your questions rolling. Hey, Jen, do we have another one?
Jeffrey sent this question. I think it was last week you talked about parents giving money to their kids for a down payment. Does it have to be a parent, or can someone else give the down payment money?
Hey, that's a great question. And first, let me thank you for listening last week or the week before. I don't remember when I was talking about that, but we talk about that a lot because, I mean, listen, a lot of people want to help their kids any way they can to get into a property, and giving them, or gifting them rather, the down payment is a big strategy that we see. Co-signing the mortgage as a non-occupying co-borrower is another strategy we see a lot of, although some parents aren't really comfortable with that, because if the kids start missing mortgage payments, mom and dad's credit go down too. But anyway, no, it doesn't have to just be a parent. It can be any blood relative, and in some instances, even an employer. And then if it's a grant, it's classed as a gift also, but grants also are permitted. So the big thing you have to remember with any gift of down payment or gift of closing costs is there's a very strict protocol in how that donor gives the money to the recipient. And if you're not working with anybody yet, call me. I'd be happy to work with you, happy to walk you through it. But if you are already working with somebody, please talk to them first before the donor transfers the money to the recipient, because it's often far, far easier for everybody involved if the parents or the donor just transfer the money directly to the title company, and that way it's a cleaner transaction. But one of the protocols that's going to have to be followed regardless of the transfer is the gift letter. And in that gift letter, the donor is attesting to the fact that this is truly a gift and no repayment is required nor expected. And that gift letter is filed as part of the loan package, and we can provide you with the gift letter outline. So it's, basically fill in the blanks, but super important that you follow the protocols. Otherwise it can become a big, big issue. We've had instances where a brother gifted $10,000, but because they just wrote the check from one brother to the next, we were required as lenders to verify that the donor had the ability to gift the funds. And I don't remember all of the components that required that in that transaction, but the brother did not want his younger brother to see how much money he had in the bank. So he didn't want to give the bank statement showing where the money came from. So we set up a file transfer directly to processing, so it skipped the younger brother's hands to assure the older brother that information would remain confidential. But people get squirrely when you start looking at each other's bank statements, so that's why transferring it directly to the title company is often the cleanest way. And you think brothers hide money from each other. Parents oftentimes don't want the kids to know how much money they have. And who knows, maybe that's why they're encouraging them to buy a property, because they're tired of loaning them money. And they're thinking, gosh, little Johnny, go buy your own place so you've got your own equity to tap when you need your money. But great question. I hope that helps not only parents, but blood relatives, sometimes the employer, and then any governmental agency or grant money is classed as a gift, and that is permissible also. But appreciate that. Hey, let me throw it over to Jen. We'll get another question here.
Scott shot us a text. Can I get a regular mortgage on a manufactured house? I'm getting mixed messages from the people I've talked with. Is this something you can help with?
Hey, that's a great question. Yes, we can help. And yes, you can get a regular mortgage on a manufactured house. Now, there are some caveats. You have to also own the dirt, the lot, the land under the property. So a lot of times in quote unquote, I'm air quoting this, trailer parks, where you pay lot rent, you don't actually, it's not real property. You have the annual sticker on, just like a boat or an RV or your car. You have that sticker on the window, and each week, it's been a long week here in the Mr. Mortgage studio. But anyway, each year you renew that registration and you put, the 2022 or 2023 sticker on the window. That's a sure sign that you don't own the land, so it's not real property. In that instance, you can't get a quote-unquote mortgage. You're going to get a different type of loan. But if you own the dirt, then you can get a conventional, an FHA, a USDA, a VA loan. All the loan products are available with two stipulations. Assuming you own the dirt, there's two more stipulations. One is it's got to be newer than 1977. And I guess that's the only other stipulation. You own the dirt and it's newer than 1977. And there's somebody out there right now who just jumped up and said, I got him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's actually 1976. It's true. It's July of 1976. But I say 1977 because nobody knows what month the unit was manufactured in. But technically, if it's after July of 1976, it meets the requirements. And what happened in that time frame was there were changes made to the manufacturing and, more importantly, the installation of the units to meet the requirements of the lending guidelines, the GSA guidelines. So yes, you can get a regular mortgage if you own the dirt and if it's newer than 1977. And it doesn't matter if it's a double wide, if it's a single wide, it all flies into Mr. Mortgage world. I don't know why I did that the hillbilly voice. Guys, I'm a Florida hillbilly, not making fun of hillbillies. I guess why I did that was I was just thinking of the most recent transaction that we did. There's actually two. One was in Okeechobee, so I always do my Okeechobee voice. And if anybody knows me outside the air, you know who Melvin is. I was going to do the Melvin voice. But the other thing I wanted to say is manufactured housing, because of the recent spike in appreciation, is oftentimes the only affordable housing left. So it's interesting. We're seeing, manufactured homes sell in the high 2s and low 300,000. So not your grandfather's manufactured home anymore, but I hope that helps. That was a brilliant question. And but you hear the music, you know what that means? That's McHugh. We'll be back in 2 on the other side of this break. We're going to take more brilliant questions. Sit tight for 2 minutes and we'll be right back. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
My wife and I own a small business. And the way our accountant file our taxes, we don't show much income on tax returns. Because of this, it looks as if we don't make the money. This was a problem for our bank when we applied for a mortgage. But not for Mark. He verifies our income by using our monthly bank statements. Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team made a big difference for me. Yes, I am happy to recommend Mr. Mortgage Mark.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned into the Mr. Mortgage Show. Guys, we appreciate you being with us, especially after the week we had. My God, during that last break, Jen was showing me some of the photographs that were getting texts in from some listeners, and man, some of you had it way worse than I imagined. I'm surprised. Super glad everybody's safe. And again, very, very glad to be part of the PSL and STU family. Super proud of the job that Greg and the team did, keeping the station on the air and keeping everybody informed. And now, the day after the storm, we're keeping you entertained and informed in the world of mortgages. At least I'm entertained. I don't know if you're entertained. But guys, we've had some great questions this week. We talked to Jeremy. He had his company had been purchased by a competitor, and he was thinking a refi might be in order because he's thinking his job might be short-lived, and he had some questions regarding how long he needed to be at the new company. Frank was asking about 1099 employees using that bank statement loan program, and that was a great question. Thanks for that one, Frank. I know Dolores, we were talking a lot about a reverse mortgage, and I hope we can connect after we get off the air, because I'd really, really like to dive deeper with you on that, because as I mentioned, that's an amazing tool in the right hands, and it sounds like it could really benefit you and your husband. So super excited to have that question. Guys, if you just tuning in and you missed any of that, go to MrMortgageRadio.com and you can listen to the full library of back episodes. This one will be up there later today or tomorrow. And Jen always posts the recorded version of the show to the podcast page, and you can find the podcast at MrMortgageRadio.com. But hey, I think we have time for another question. Let me throw it over to Jen and see if we can get another one in.
Marilyn emailed this in. Our insurance premium just jumped. It almost doubled this time. And now another hurricane? How difficult is it to switch insurance companies? We pay the premium as part of our mortgage.
Hey, Marilyn, that's a great question. And you're right that after this year, we're likely to see big hikes again because, the insurance, there's so much that needs to change in the world of insurance. And anyway, that's a whole nother show. And we might do a show around that. It's not difficult. It's going to require some phone calls. You're going to want to first start shopping your rate, get the insurance company that you want lined up with the agent, and then get the agent in touch with the servicer, right? Now, the servicer is the one you make your payments to. So lenders loan money, and then they sell the loans to recapitalize themselves so they can loan more money. Servicers are the ones that collect the payment. So because the servicer collects your payment, they have access to your escrow account, and it's easier if you do it at the time of renewal. And it sounds like that's about where you are if you're just getting the premium adjustment now. Regarding that, give me a shout. Plus, I've got some really, really rock star insurance agents that we've been getting some surprisingly low quotes from by comparison. And I'm happy to get you in touch with them. I got a listener in touch with Chris, one of my insurance referral partners, and he saved him so much money on his primary home, which was about a $1.3 million policy, that this gentleman moved his rental properties over to Chris as well. So it's always worth a phone call, and I'm happy to help if I can. 855-462-7292 is the Anytime hotline. But guys, I am going to ask you a favor. If you've enjoyed the show, if you find any of this useful, informative, please share it. Share the show. We're always trying to grow the audience. I'm happy to help. If you got friends or family or coworkers who have questions about real estate or mortgages, please share the show with them. I'd be happy to help. Get them in touch with us, 855-462-7292, or encourage them to check out MrMortgageRadio.com. But I'm looking at the clock on the wall. I think that's a George Thorogood song. Hey, say bye, Jen.
Goodbye, Jen. Have a great week.
Goodbye, Jen. You hear that music. You know what that is. That means we've wrapped up another week. My God, the time flies. We always enjoy being with you here on WPSL. If you need us when we're not on the air, give us a call, 855-462-7292. Or as I mentioned, check us out at MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Otherwise, tune in next week right here. Same time, same station. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages, right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.